Welcome to That's Anita Live, the talk show dedicated to providing emotional healing through sharing to help you create a happier life. Today's guest is a licensed therapist and the CEO and founder of Empowerment Through Expression, Therapy Center and Mind Spa. She's here to share with us all the ways our relationships affect our mental health, particularly our toxic relationships. Welcome, Dr. Valeka Moore, to the show. And the title of her book is The Mental Detox. Dr. Valeka Moore, and the title is The Mental Detox.
Yes.
Welcome to That Anita Live.
Thank you so much for having me.
Girl, now let's get into Mind Spa. Sounds magnificent.
Yes.
Where'd the name come from, and what is the atmosphere like?
Okay, so the name came actually from when I first started my practice and I was seeing clients, and I see a lot of women, right? And one of the questions based on what women are coming in for, one of the questions is, how do you take care of yourself? What do you do to take care of yourself? And a lot of women were like, take care of myself, what's that? You know, how do I do that? I don't have time for that. Or another thing was that I was really seeing this misconception of what mental health is and who has mental health as well. So, you know, there's such a stigma on it that, you know, people isolate mental health to someone having a diagnosis or something like that. And just really trying to help people understand that mental health is so much more than that, and that we all have mental health that needs to be taken care of. And sometimes it's not in the form of a diagnosis, but it's just us just taking care of ourselves. So, you know, I'm a visionary. So just all of a sudden, one day, God just dropped in my spirit to be able to do something that would bring people in to be able to talk. Because sometimes we don't even know that we need to talk. Or sometimes because what we think therapy is, we, you know, don't use that outlet. We don't use that tool. So, you know, that was something that was helping people to come in when they knew that, wait a minute, I can come in, I can get a massage too. And so the atmosphere, it feels like a spa. So from the time you hit the door and you just come in, and we have the candles going, the relaxation music would be going, and you know, and people are coming in, and from the time they hit the door, they're like, it smells so good in here, like I feel so relaxed in here. And what they would do, or what they do, is they come in, they talk to their therapist for about 30 minutes, and then they go into their massage session. And the reason that we combine the two and not just do the massage is because I feel like there are a lot of great places that we can go get a massage, and it's great, but then before we even get up off of the table, we're thinking about, okay, now I got to go back into this stress, or what do I have to do next? You know, these are the stressors that I'm just going back into. So before we even finish our massage, we're getting tensed all over again. And so that downtime in the beginning was to release all of that, and then also to get strategies to be able to help us or help other women be able to deal with those things.
So the Mind Spa helps you with the mental detox. Well, tell me the story behind the title of the book.
Okay, so the title of the book actually came from my own story and my own situation, which is shared in the book, of just having so many mental toxins, so many things that I had taken in, which we do over the years, even from when we are little children. And we don't know how to deal with it, so we don't know how to let it go. We hold it in, we sweep it under the rug, and just over time, those things build up. And it's just mental toxins, it's clutter, you know, that we're dealing with, and it spills over, or it erupts eventually. And that was what my situation was. One day, you know, this was before I started my practice, so this was over 5 years ago. I'm sitting in my office. I knew that 3 months out, I would be getting ready to go into private practice. And I'm sitting in there. The office is just like so quiet. I guess I was the only one at work that day. And just all of these emotions just started to come up. Just, I guess, with it just being the perfect environment for me to do some thinking. And really, you know, sometimes we know that those things are there, but we try to push them down. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to feel that. And in that moment, I just like felt so drained. I felt old. I always tell people I felt like I was dying, you know, and, you know, it's like, okay, well, that's harsh. Wow, that's big. But the thing is, it felt worse. And just holding all of that in. And at that time, we were close to the end of the year. So usually around the end of the year, we're setting goals. And I can't remember specifically if I set any goals, but I remember saying, I just can't do this again. I can't do this for another year. And so that was in like 2003. And the book I actually just finished writing last year. And I didn't know it would be a book, but prior to that, the year before, I started doing a mental detox program. And it just came from the place of me remembering that, okay, I have had experiences, or I had this experience where I was holding so much in. And I know if me, as a therapist, I was a therapist at the time, helping everybody get their life together, right? And I'm like, okay, I know if I had this experience, there are other people that need to be able to detox. They need to be able to declutter. So for Mental Health Awareness Month, which is every May, about April, I was like, let me do this mental detox. And I just like put it out there on Facebook, anyone interested. And I got like 20 people that wanted to be a part. And, you know, I just really took them through my steps, because sometimes we know we need something, but we don't know the process to it. And I had already gone through the process. And in this book, it's a 31-day process. My process was not 31 days because I didn't know. I had to figure out some things. And I always tell people as well, when you're going through this, it doesn't mean your process is going to be 31 days either, because everyone has their own process. Yeah.
So let's break down the toxic relationships. And let's start from the very first relationship we have, and then work that circle outwards, you know, as a human being matures and grows up.
Okay.
So the first relationships are with parents. What happens when the parents, both, let's just, you know, talk about both of them, are toxic, and childhood trauma becomes adult dysfunctional behavior?
So it can go one of two ways.
Okay.
And so what we can sometimes find is that because they are our models, that then as we grow up, then we take on those same toxic things, or because we see it and we're like, I don't want to be like that. I'm not going to be like them. Then we strive so much not to be like that, that it can become like perfectionism or something that still becomes toxic. But, you know, it's because we try to separate ourselves from it so much. So it can go one of two ways. So we might not exactly be engaging in the behavior, or we do engage in the behavior, or either we're so far to the left that I'm not going to do that.
Because I've heard a lot of women say, I'm not going to be my mother. Why do they feel so strongly about that? How does that toxicness affect them in their adulthood?
And I think, I mean, it depends on what the situation is with the mother and what we're seeing, because I think, you know, I can even say, and I have the most wonderful mom, you know, and there were some things that when I was growing up, I saw with her. Like, I saw how she worked so hard. I saw how she just did certain things, and I was just like, you know, like she needs help. She doesn't ask for help. She lets people take advantage of her, you know, and things like that. And I was just like, I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to do that. So, you know, it's not always bad. Some of the things that we're seeing, it's not it might be negative or bad in our eyes, so then we try to separate ourselves from it. And then some of the things that even we say, because it's been modeled and because it's what's normal, it's what's become normal. This is what I see, so this is what I know how to do. We pick up those things as well. And so, you know, so we want to feel like we're doing things right and that our lives can be different, that we're going to do things different. But, you know, sometimes as we're growing up, and I just talked about this a little bit, when we're children, we really don't know how to fully process it.
Right.
We just know that it's just something that doesn't look good to us. And so, you know, the things or the work that it would take for us to really be able to resolve those issues or really figure out how to make things work for us, we don't do that work. So, like I said, it can go one way or the other.
Okay, so then they grow up and they have siblings. And there's that beyond sibling rivalry is sibling abuse. It isn't really talked about in our society, but it does exist. How does that type of abuse, where it's from one sibling to another, affect our mental health as we grow?
So when you say sibling abuse, what would that look like?
Well, say one sibling is 10 or 11, maybe even 12 years older than the other, and constantly roughhousing, but the younger sibling doesn't appreciate it, doesn't want to participate, pushes them off, doesn't like playing with them, doesn't even, you can tell that the younger child shrinks when the older child even walks into a room. Constantly calling them names, picking on them, insults, belittlement, things of that nature.
And you're saying that comes from what they see from the parent? You know, and that is something that...
Because how can that affect the younger child as that child grows older?
Oh, it definitely affects them. You know, and it goes back to learned behaviors.
Okay.
And so, you know, so it's the same thing. It just goes back to what side are they going to be on of that? This is what I felt in my home, you know, and then even when they get adults and they have children and how they parent their children based on what they experienced as a child. So with, you know, their younger children, are they really protective over them? You know, how do they parent their older children, you know, when they see certain things between the older children and the younger children? So it just carries from one generation to the next if it's not dealt with.
Now, speaking of that generations,
Yeah.
right? When someone grows up in a very toxic household, and then they begin to enter into intimate relationships, can that play out in those relationships that they have with?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and the thing is, a lot of the time we don't see it as it being a problem for us. You know, we look at it as, well, this person did this or they did that to me, and we can take on that role of victim because it feels like someone is always doing something to us because it's something that's not healed in us. You know, and that's what I tell my clients to always check out when they begin to see patterns. You know, when they start to see, you know, the same things happening, maybe it's not the exact same thing, but it's like kind of a root to it that, okay, we got in an argument or I ended this relationship because of this, you know, and it could have been like a different situation, but something is very similar. I tell them to go back to the place in your life where maybe something happened, you know, because what happens, we might see maybe a root of rejection, a root of abandonment, a root of betrayal, a root of something. And then that carries on throughout all of our relationships until we catch it, till we realize what it is.
How can somebody become more self-aware, like you're speaking, because you're talking about an adult becoming more self-aware on how their childhood now affects their adulthood? What are some of the ways that people can do that mental detox to become more self-aware?
So I think sometimes we need help, sometimes we don't know. But sometimes there are people that, you know, they sit, they get still because they realize that something is going on. So they take that time, and we have to go through a self-awareness process, whether it's we just realize we need to do it and we do it, or we realize something is off, something is wrong, let me go and talk to someone.
Okay.
And then, whether, and it doesn't always have to be professional support, even though I highly recommend it, but it can be just someone in our life, a support that we know that we're going to get the real from. Like, they are going to be completely honest, but we know that they really have our best interests at heart. Or someone that we feel like we can really pour out to and what we're dealing with, which is why I think therapy, using that as a tool, can be so helpful. I had I have many clients where, they come in and it's like, they're able to identify supports in their lives, but they're like, I just needed to really just come talk to someone that doesn't know me or that didn't know me, because, I feel judged maybe, and I know that these people have my best interest at heart, or they want to protect me, or I feel like I'm just not getting the most objective viewpoint from those people. So I just need to be able to just pour out to someone that I don't even know, and maybe just get not even that viewpoint of somebody being so protective that, either they're not going to tell me things or they're going to hinder me. Because sometimes we have people that hinder us because they want the best for us. Yeah. So it's just like, like put the brakes on that, don't you? And sometimes we just need another perspective.
Yeah, because people like to think that therapy is for those that are having a mental disorder or some kind of breakdown in living their life. But really, mental health is just like physical health. The same way you go in and you get your physical checks is the same way that you should connect with a therapist or someone to get those mental checkups.
Absolutely. And I say that when I talk about mental health, and that is just something that over the past year, I have really been out there, like on Facebook and everything, really talking about it, and going to different conferences and things, talking about it as well, is that I believe just like, we go and get our physical checkups every year, that's something that we should do as well, that we should be going to just talk to someone, just be able to pour out, even if we only go 2 or 3 times, but we're just able to release things that we've been holding on to. And sometimes when we get in there, we realize we need quite a few sessions to really work through things, because it's a process. And it takes some time to work through things.
Yeah. We'll be right back to take questions from Dr. Moore.
Here's what you miss when you're not in studio with That Anita Live.
I don't even mention this in the book.
No, you didn't.
Explain.
At 96th Street, you transfer into the one.
You want it.
Yes.
Explain.
Because I'm at the end of my toilet paper roll when you talk about seasons in life.
She said,
I'd rather be good by myself.
please, spill the tea.
Come on. I love to have you in my audience.
Please tell the man. Girl, you please tell the man to leave it.
And we're back in studio with Dr. Valeka Moore, taking questions from the audience.
Hey there.
Hi.
I really liked what you said at the beginning about having a therapy session and then having the relaxation session. The first thing that came to my mind, though, is insurance is not going to cover that. Have you looked into ways to combine those two that would work in our system?
Absolutely. So this is the thing with the insurance. So I have some clients that pay out of pocket, and I have some clients that pay insurance. Of course, one thing that I feel, and that's a really good question, that a lot of people don't know, is that your healthcare benefits do cover behavioral health and mental health, and a lot of people don't know that, so I wanted to put that out there. Also, the way that we do it is when we're billing for a session, it's a psychotherapy session, right? So, it's really up to your therapist's expertise or recommendations what you need in your session. So like I said, we'll do 30 minutes where we're talking and you're pouring out, and then maybe your next 20 or 30 minutes are with a relaxation session and your massage. So we kind of incorporate and include everything in, and it's included as, or it's looked at as a psychotherapy session. That's part of your work That's part of your session.
But it'll be a different person handling the massage session, I assume?
Sometimes, or sometimes it's just a relaxation session with me. So it depends on what it looks like. If there is a different person, then we are looking at another payment.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Hi.
So your book, I usually try to keep different books inside my practice to give to clients. Is that something that a man can use as well?
Absolutely. You know, and I'm really thinking about making this for a man, because a man doesn't want to carry around the pink book. But I have had plenty of men that have bought this book, and the strategies work just fine for them. Even though the conversation is to a woman, there are a lot of the same things that a man deals with as well. And so absolutely, this can work for a man. Not only is it a book, but it's also a journal. So the questions or the exercises that are happening every day, men can certainly find themselves in those. Yep.
And do you hold, I know you mentioned that you did like a 20-person group. Do you hold groups where like a private group, like on Facebook or something like that, where you have people and come and kind of like do the 31-day detox with you? Okay.
I do. So actually, I just started maybe a month ago doing the mental detox sessions again after 2 years, and they are going very well. Yeah.
Talking about toxic relationships, do you have any suggestions in your book or verbally that suggest how to stop the toxic relationship, how to deal with the toxic relationship?
Absolutely. Good question. So this book is broken down into 4 sections, and the first 2 sections are reflecting and releasing. So the first thing that we need to know that there might be a toxic relationship in our life is that reflecting period, that self-evaluation, what's going on here. And there is an exercise that asks, what are the things, what or who is causing certain emotions, certain negative or unfavorable emotions in my life. So first, that's the recognizing who it is. And then in the next section, which is the releasing section, then that's helping you figure out what boundaries need to be set, how you disconnect. So this is certainly a tool for helping people, whatever they identify as that thing that is causing the unfavorable or toxic emotions, to be able to disconnect from that. Yep. Hi.
Back to when you were talking about how, like, when it comes to your parents, how some people either do one or the other, either avoiding trying to become their parent or doing the same thing. Have you seen people take on both of those roles, like not doing certain things but picking up other things?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, it might be a specific behavior that someone says, I'm not going to do that. And then it might be another behavior that maybe the parent exhibited as the child was growing up, and then they might take on that and might not realize that that's toxic, or that's probably something inappropriate that they shouldn't be doing as well. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any recommendations that she asked for handling toxic relationships? So somebody watches this and finds themselves, hey, wait a minute, I'm in a relationship that, and it could be best friends. It doesn't necessarily have to be a partner. It could just be best friends. I'm in a relationship with somebody who constantly makes me feel down. How can that person either manage? Because we were having a discussion earlier about whether or not it's cool cutting off people.
Right. And so I subscribe to cutting people off when we need to. But what I would say is, if it's a relationship that we really want to continue in our life, and we have not really done the work to make things better, because when I have clients to come in and they're the person that's there sitting on the couch, and I'm talking to them, and all of their stress and everything is due to a relationship, I will usually say, have you thought about having either, whether it's a couple couple, or whether it's a mom and daughter or whoever it may be, have you thought about maybe having joint therapy, having a joint session with them? So even if that looks like maybe we're going to have 1 or 2 sessions, or sometimes they need just a whole process on their own, so that some work can get done there. So that would be the first thing that I would recommend. Or sometimes I'll say, okay, maybe take these strategies, and they'll take them and they'll see how they work. And what I always tell people is that we can't change somebody else. We're responsible for us.
Say that again.
We can't change anyone else. We have our own process, so we are responsible for us. And if what we're seeing after we've tried different things and they have not worked, we have to really think about, okay, now what do I need to do for me? Is this going to work? What can I do to is there anything else that I can do? And when there is nothing else, all of the options have been tried.
Right. I've written the letters. I've sat down and had verbal communication back and forth. I brought in a third party to speak both parts and help us decide what we should compromise on, or what we should have mediated, and nothing is changing this situation.
And so then, I go to the person and I say, okay, so what is the life that you want to see? And do you feel like you can get it that way? Or are you now in a position where it's either that you're going to disconnect from this, or you're going to get to a place where whatever it is that's been bothering you, you're going to come to a place of acceptance. And those are the options. So this has been a stressor. This has been something that's been making you sad. We've talked about it. You've done all the work. Nothing's changed. So either you're going to make a decision to separate, to disconnect, or you're going to get to a place where you can accept it. And how does that work for you?
Get to a place where you can accept it. Choose wisely when selecting partners, friends, relationships for your inner circle. Those closest to you have a lot of influence on what happens in your life, your happiness, and your contentment in life. I'm Anita, your host. Be sure to check out that'sanitalive.com for where and when to see our next episode.